in the last lesson, we saw how to organize our file. So I'll give you a little challenge. Give this file a good name. I'll include the instructions here. Now, simply pause your video and get this done. I hope that went well. Now, if I'm to give this a name, I could as well call this O3, since I have 01 and 02 here. Then I'll say thesis analysis. And that's because it's under the thesis analysis folder. Or data analysis. This is better. Yeah, so that's the name of my file. Now we've seen the house script, and the good thing about the house script, which is this file which I just created, let me reload this, is that it enables transparent and reproducible research. One of the first things we did in this course is to go to tools, check our global options. Then under global options, we saw under general, we ensure that we uncheck this part of the workspace and set this place to never. And that is nice. The reason why we are doing that is because we have the R script. And since we have the R script, we do not need to save objects created in any R session. This is because the R script can create the objects again. And one other interesting thing about the R script is, of course, it can make you replicate your analysis easily. It also makes it easy for you to share your work. But if you want to share your work, it's better you work with something more than the R script. You should work with the R project. And that takes us to R project. Now, the way the R project works, the R project is just like a container for a particular thing you are working on. For example, you are working in a research institute where you have multiple projects going on at the same time, which is often the case. You have an analysis on a demographic study, you have another one on the use of clean energy, just multiple studies. Some are related, some are unrelated, but the thing is, they are different studies. The best way to do this is to use the R project. Now, to use the R project, the first thing you need to do is you come to this part, file, new project. That's one way. I prefer to use this part here in the top right hand corner. I click on data for R, which is the name of this project. Then I click on new project. And on clicking on new project, you should have this modal. You see, we have new directory, we have existing directory, then version control. Version control is not something we'll be covering now. That's something that we'll do in another course. Now, we can use a new directory or we can use existing directory. That's one of the two options. For existing directory, you simply click, then you locate the folder of the existing directory. You can use existing directory if you already have a folder for that project. For example, this thesis analysis, I could locate it and use it as my project directory for this work. So here I have thesis analysis, then I'll choose this. Once I choose this and click on create project, you'll see that this will reload and all this that I'm saying here will no longer be there. Of course, you have the option to open a new session or to just replace this session with the new work. So create project. Now this has replaced the previous session. And now you see I have everything cleared. My environment is cleared. But see the first thing that I have here. And the good thing about using the R project is whatever folder that you use is seen as the root page. I have frequently noticed a lot of R code when you see things like this, set WD, then you locate the folder. This, why it's not bad, I would advise you against using it. That's because once you send that file to somebody else, they have to adapt it to the local parts of their computer. And what you want is a code that someone would be able to run without the need to alter anything and change anything. In cases where you run into trouble with your personal computer and you need to use a replacement, using set WD will throw an error, and this is likely due to the parts in set WD being different from the parts of the replacement computer. Instead, what you want to do is use the R project. You also see things like this, get WD. Now this is a function to get your working directory, and this is the working directory. And once I press Ctrl Enter, you see this. This is analysis like this. But just a minute. You see what we'll have once I open the other project. Get WD. See, this is data for her. Then look at the other one, the thesis analysis. This is seen as the root folder. So using functions like setwd, which I largely discourage, is not needed. So if you want to work, you just know you're working on a folder as it is. So I encourage you to use the how project. It makes your work localized to that particular environment, and you do not need to look for external directories that are lost. And this makes it easy, very, very easy for any other person to work with. And the reason for that is once you send them your zip R project and they unzip it, if they check get WD on their own system, it will be whatever folder that is extracted from the zip code that will be there. So they won't have this result. They won't have Olamide Adu documents, yada yada yada, and things like that. No. Instead, they will have, for example, home slash Adegoke Margaret slash desktop. Let's say she extracted it in desktop slash thesis analysis, and it will work perfectly. And that's because the how project file always defines the working directory based on the folder where it is saved. And that brings us to the end of this section. See you in the next lesson.